All right, guys, I got to tell you this story right now. This just happened. I just pulled in from this, what I'm about to tell you. And it's pretty funny, but in a way, too, it does make you feel kind of nervous about if things would go wrong or whatever, just depending on the situation. And I'll explain that to you and kind of give you the scenario. Okay, so here's the deal. I was going to meet a guy to buy a used gun, which you'll see very soon here. That gun is in this box right here. But I got this gun. I'm very happy with it. So let's talk about this. The reason I went to go do this at midnight or a little after is because, number one, with the schedule, this guy being on afternoons, it was either going to be at like before 3 on Saturday or a little after midnight on Friday, and I chose to do it a little after midnight on Friday. Wasn't really concerned about meeting him. Somebody I didn't know, but I wasn't concerned about meeting him because it turns out that I seen where he works online, and it turns out he works and knows a cousin of mine. So really wasn't any kind of questionable thing there. So this is where the funny part comes in. Or for some of you, probably the nerve-wracking part. So he says, okay, there's 2 different companies that are in close proximity to one another. They're not real far away. And he worked at one of them, and I thought he worked at the other one, okay? So he asked to meet me at this one place. He's going to go south, and I'm like, well, I'm closer to the company where you work, so how about if we just meet close to there if you don't mind? And he says, okay, how about the Speedway? I say, okay, that's cool with me. I was going to say that anyway. So little did I know he worked at another company, at the other company that's further away, and he meant a Speedway over there, not the one I was going to. So I go to the Speedway. It's just now hitting midnight, and I'm like, hey, I'm here. Everything's good. There's really nowhere to park. It's a small Speedway. It's in a bad part of town. The neighborhood's bad. There's factories around. It's just it's not a good area at all. Trust me. So the gas station is still open. So he's like, okay, he sends a message back, I'm on my way. So I said, okay. Told him what make and color of car I'd be in. He told me the make and color of his car, and I remember he said it was a Chevy Cobalt, but I didn't remember the color. So I'm sitting there, and I tell him, I'm like, yeah, I'm pulled up to a gas pump. I'm like, there's nowhere to park. I'm like, there's a couple spaces, but they're full. And like in the background, I'm hearing this bass music going, just constant, while I'm sitting there from somewhere over back on the side or something. And so I'm over by the gas pump, and I said, just pull up on the other side of the gas pump, adjacent from me. On the other side, I said, we'll be good to go. I said, I'll hand this off to you. You can hand off me that one. I said, we'll check them out and see what's good. See if it's all good to go. He says, okay. So I'm sitting there, and about 5 minutes later, a Chevy Cobalt pulls up right across from me. I'm pulled up a little bit further from the pump than where you'd be to put gas in, because I'm just sitting there to meet him because there's no parking spots. So Chevy Cobalt pulls up. It's blue, and it pulls up like right nose to nose, like right in line with my car, up from the pump on the other side. But the windows are blacked out tint, literally blackout tint. And I'm like, oh, man, I can't even see in there. I'm like, I can't, I'm just waiting for him to, does he want me to get out? Is he getting out? It's always this little game you play. And if you guys want to know how I do that, I'll tell you guys in another video, little scenarios I do when I go to get a used gun, how I do it, or meet somebody. But anyway, so I'm thinking, is he going to get out? Am I going to get out? How are we doing this? Is he carrying it over here? Am I carrying it over there? Thinking all these things. So I'm sitting in my car, looking at blackout tinted windows on a blue Chevy Cobalt, and there's no movement. There is nothing. This car is just sitting there. If I'd have pulled up after him, I'd have thought it's just sitting there parked. Okay, there's nothing. I'm like, oh. So I open my door and I put my leg out. Waiting. It's snowing on me. Yeah, it's snowing here. Waiting. Okay, now keep in mind, it's after midnight now, and I'm in a very bad area. Very bad neighborhood near the company I thought he worked at. So, I stand up, and I'm standing there. I'm like, okay, do. The gun box is still in the car. I'm not touching that till it's time to go. Okay, I'm standing there. So I pull out my light, and I shine it I give it a couple blips into the window. You know, give it a couple quick shots into the window. Nothing. No movement. The car isn't moving. Doesn't seem like the guy inside's moving. No car doors opening. Nothing. So I'm like, okay, I seen this guy pull up, and I know he didn't get out. So I wait. Yet again, I stand there after I flash the light in the window. Okay, so then I mosey on over. I take 2 steps, and see, this is where you always got to have your bearings. Always, it's mindset, guys. Mindset. The mindset is up here of always keep in mind what you're doing, and always keep that worst case scenario. Like, you don't have to be paranoid. You don't have to. But when you gather the time of day, your surroundings, what you're doing, and what's going on, you use the mindset that's proper for that situation. So even though I'm 100% sure that this is the guy that I'm supposed to meet, in my mind, I'm 100% sure it's a Chevy Cobalt. I just didn't remember what color he said. I'm like, what's the chances? He pulls up adjacent from me, like I said, everything's good to go. You know, I'm like, this has got to be the guy. So after I wait a little bit longer, I go up and tap on the passenger window. But when I go to tap on the passenger window, I skirt back by the center pillar of the car, and I'm just to the rear of the passenger seat. Even though I can't see through the tinted windows, I know where my body is standing. So just having that mindset of just, you know, of me thinking 100% this is the guy I'm supposed to meet, I still had the mindset of I'm not going to be in line with this guy's window just in case. It's tinted windows, I can't see in there. So I'm back just adjacent to the driver door. There is no rear door, but I'm like where the pillar would be. So like if someone were to put their arm up with something or to have something and take it toward the window, the seat would be in the way. They'd have a harder time trying to get to where I'm at. I'm behind line of sight, line of fire, and I tap on the window 2 taps, and then I step back, and I'm over toward my car, but a little bit to the rear of his window. So then all of a sudden the door comes open. I'm like, finally. I'm thinking it's about time. And what steps out is kind of a very kind of wide-eyed. It was a young black guy, about 19, 20 years old, no more than 21, possibly about 19. And he's like all wide-eyed, and he's like looking at me, you know. And I'm like, are you the one that I was supposed to meet here? And he's like, no. And I'm like, I said, I apologize. I said, I'm supposed to meet somebody here. I said, I'm purchasing something used. I said, and this is the place that we said we'd meet. I said, and I've never seen the guy before. All I know is that he was going to be in a Chevy Cobalt, and I didn't remember the color. And he's like, okay. And he's still kind of looking at me, and he comes around the front of his car. And I'm like, look, man, I said, if I freaked you out when I knocked on your window or shined my light, I said, I 100% apologize. I said, had someone did that to me, I said, I would have totally not known what was going on. And I would have been like, I'd have been sitting there like, what in the world is going on? And he was a really, really nice kid, super nice kid. And he was like, it's no problem, man. And he laughed it off, and went into the gas station. And I'm like, you know what, man, I didn't mean to scare this guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, I didn't. But he was cool. He said, like I said, he kind of laughed it off and went in the gas station. And I'm like, what are the chances of that happening? That's why you never know what's going on. And in that situation, so could have went south. Even though I laugh at it now, a situation like that could have went south. I'm in a very bad neighborhood, very bad area of town. It's not horrible, like there wasn't gunshots going off, but I was in definitely one of the bad areas that are in town. And knocking on somebody's window, they got blackout tint. I can't see how many people. There could have been 4 guys in that car. They could have been 4 guys that were drunk and could have just sprung out of that car and all just ganged up on me. Well, then what do? You know what I mean? You have your gun, but technically you instigated it. You knocked on their window. So, yeah, have fun in court if you would ever draw a gun because 4 guys jump out of a car and want to know why you're knocking on their window at midnight. I would have been in the wrong. I'd have been like, guys, hey, I would have used my my verbal skills in that situation. That's where you go to verbal skills. Look, man, there's a lot of things that you learn when you deal with people. One of the things you learn, I know this might sound corny, but there's an old Andy Griffith episode where he was telling this deputy that he was supposed to train, and this deputy was totally by the book. He knew the book word for word, and he would go down the line, and he would do everything by the book like he was a robot. And Andy Griffith told him, I know it's just a show, but Andy Griffith told him, you know what? When you deal with people, you can't always go by the book. Every situation's different, and every situation can require something different to help it work out. You can't always go by the book. You don't always when you're dealing with people, you can't be a stickler. If you are a stickler to every little rule, every little regulation, every little thing, and you don't give people some leeway and some compassion, it's going to come back to bite you sooner or later. So I'm sorry I got off on that tangent. But, man, I don't even know why I trailed off on that. I'm sorry, I'm losing my thought here. But, you know, how you treat people, oh, I know what I was saying. Because verbally, your verbal skills are something that is very useful when it comes to other people. Words can turn a situation either way. They can turn a situation to the wrong. They can turn a situation to the right. You know, that's why I apologized to this kid like 3 times. It wasn't that I feared that he was going to do anything. In fact, he looked like he was scared. It was just that I felt so dumb because, you know, I'm thinking, you know, I would have thought, you know, what's going on with this guy? You know, I probably would have took off. Somebody come up and knock on my window, shine a light in my window. I don't know him. It's a stranger. I probably would take off. You know, I wouldn't know what's going on. I probably would have just drove out of there. So, you know, I vehemently apologized to him, and like I said, he laughed it off and was cool with it. But remember, how you deal with people, what you say, your words can either bring honey or you can bring wrath with your words, and not everything is by the book. So at any rate, so then I call this guy and I'm like, dude, you're not going to believe what just happened. And I tell him the story. You know, I've never met this guy before, never talked to him on the phone. This was the first phone call. Everything else had been through text. He's laughing. And I'm like, so he tells me, you know, the one where he's at, and we get everything figured out, and I go to meet him, and I get this baby. I can't wait. What's in this box weighs 45.8 ounces. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's it. I can't wait to show it to you. I got another gun I got to show you first. Another new one that I have to show you. But yeah, guys, that was a story time for tonight. Well, I hope you enjoyed, and just fresh off the cuff, just coming back from that, I had to tell you guys. I wish I would have had you. I wish I would have been videoing it while I was there. All right, guys, until next time, this is Defender of Freedom, and I'll talk to you real soon. Watch your 6, and I'm out.